This video is going to cover the topic of finding the distance between points on a coordinate graph. Be sure the date and topic are at the top of your page. The essential question in this video is how can we measure the distance between coordinates on a graph? We'll start by looking at a few points on the coordinate graph. So of course, we'll first need to draw our 4 quadrants. With our quadrants ready, let's plot 2 points. Let's plot the point -2, 3, which of course is in quadrant number 2. And let's also plot the point 4, 3, which is here in quadrant 1. Before we go any further, I just want to point out something that I noticed about both of these points. I noticed that they have the same y coordinate, and this actually gives me a lot of information. Since the points are at the same height, I know that these 2 points are going to be horizontal. So if I connected them, I would make a horizontal line. Remember that horizontal, of course, means going from left to right. And we want to be able to calculate the distance between these points. So we're essentially trying to see how long this line is, this horizontal line is that reaches between them. So I'll just go ahead and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like this line is 6 units long. So there are 6 units between these points. Let's plot 2 new points. So let's go ahead and plot -1, -4. That's here in our 3rd quadrant. Just going to go ahead and mark that. And let's also plot 7, -4, which is way over here. 7, -4. And again, I see the same thing. I see that they have the same y coordinate. So I know again that these are going to be horizontal. If I connect this, I get a horizontal line. And if I want to find the distance between these points, I can simply count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one is 8 units between our 2 points. However, I feel like that's a lot of work sometimes to have to plot out the points to figure out how much space there is between them. But in both of these cases, they had the same y coordinate. So really all I needed to look at were the x coordinates. In both of these examples, the points were in opposite quadrants, right? And I know that since one of the x values, like here, was positive and this one was negative, I know they're sitting in different quadrants. So I can see how much space there is between them by thinking about how far both of them are from the y-axis, or from 0. So here, from here to here, to get to 0, this was 2 units. And on the other side, from 0 to our 4 was 4 units. Together, that makes our 6 units. The same thing happens down here, right? Our numbers indicate that we're in different quadrants. And we can go ahead and say, oh, from here to here, there was 1 unit to get to 0. And on the other side, from 0 to the point, it was 7 units for a total of 8 units. That's a handy trick, right? Essentially, if the coordinates are in different quadrants and the y coordinates are the same, I've just taken the absolute value of both of the the x coordinates and added them together. So the absolute value of -2 was 2, plus the absolute value of 4 is why we know it is 6 units apart. I have now a second 4-quadrant graph, and this time let's start by plotting the point 5, 6. And let's also plot the point 5, -3 down here. So this time I can see that both of my x coordinates are the same. That means if I connect these dots, I should get a vertical line. And remember, vertical goes up and down. If I count the spaces between to see how far apart these are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I find that there are 9 units between them. The space between is 9 units. But just like before, I bet we could apply that same shortcut to know the length of the line. Since they both have the same x coordinate, I can simply look at the y. Right? Since one is negative and one is positive, the points are in different quadrants. I can see how much space is in between them by thinking about how far they are from the x-axis, or 0. So here, from here to here, of course, would be 6. From here to here would just be 3. That means all together, these two together would make our 9 units. This trick is really handy when you have points that are so large you don't want to have to graph them to see how far apart they are. I can use this trick for points like 4, 160, and 4, negative 40. I don't really want to graph this out, but if I had to measure this, I could figure out how far the distance is between them, and I can do it without graphing. I can see that they are both having a x value of 4, but the y values are different. So I know first of all that this is a vertical line. I also see that my y values, one is positive and one is negative, so I know this is in different quadrants. Right? As such, I can say, oh, I know this, let's say the absolute value of 160 is 160. This point is 160 units away from my x-axis. This number is 40 units away from the x-axis. If I do 160 plus the 40, I know that these 2 points are 200 units away. Let me show you another example. If I have the point negative 205 and another point of 450 I don't want to plot this to figure out how far apart they are, but I know they have the same y value, so this is going to be a horizontal line. I also see that my x values show me that we're in different quadrants. One is negative and one is positive. So I can think to myself, well, this negative 200 is 200 units away from the y-axis. This 450 is 450 units away from the y-axis. Together, I know that they are 650 units apart. And I'm able to do that without graphing. Of course, there's nothing wrong with graphing or taking a look at the graph and counting the spaces in between, but it's nice to have another strategy to use. For your turn, you're going to find the distance between the points negative 3, 6 and negative 3, negative 4. I have a four-quadrant graph here. If you want to use that, you're welcome to draw that and plot them to see the distance, or you could look at the absolute values and decide it that way. Remember that the essential question of this video was how do we measure the distance of 2 points on a graph? And we have 2 strategies to do that. And as always, come with any questions that you might have and all your notes to class as we practice this more together.